Good evening to a special edition here on Always Wolves Fan TV, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sky's Johnny Phillips to talk about what is going to be an amazing evening at the Grand Theatre Wolverhampton, reminiscing on that famous playoff win and that season in 2003. Sir Jack's History Boys. Welcome, Johnny.
Hi, Dave. Good to see you.
Absolutely good to see you, mate. I mean, I'm really excited because I'm going to be going as well to this event. And, I remember being there at the playoff final and all as Wolves fans, 3-0 up in dreamland. And we still thought we were going to mess it up. And until Sir Jack put his thumbs up with about 5 minutes to go, and we thought we can't mess it up. Because you know what Wolves are like with the playoffs up until that point. I mean, I bet you're excited about it coming along very, very soon now.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long time in the planning, and it was just such an incredible day at Cardiff. And I think one of the reasons that team in particular captured the imagination was, well, for two things, really. It was the day itself, which just turned out into the perfect day for Wolves fans, really. And then the fact that there had been that wait, that there hasn't been that wait with the two promotions since. And it's sort of, I think that sort of added to the mystique and added to the legend of these players, because when you think about it, they only actually stayed in the Premier League for 1 year, but they were such a well-loved, fondly loved team full of big characters. And just preparing for this night and going through all the things and stories that we've gone through, it just sort of brought it all back. And you thought, gosh, you could have them in every night for a week and we still wouldn't get through all the stories. So it's been great putting it on.
I'm so excited for doing it. I mean, do you want to just let people know who is going to be joining you on stage for this?
Yeah, so we've got together all three goal scorers and the man of the match. So Mark Kennedy, who's currently the Lincoln City manager, is coming down. He got the first goal, of course.
I remember and going to the camera like this. Remember that?
Yeah, what a goal it was. One absolutely brilliant goal. And then the front men who played such a big part that season as well, Nathan Blake and Kenny Miller. Nathan is coming up from Wales for it, and Kenny's coming down from the north. I think he's actually back in Scotland at the moment after his spell at Huddersfield. So I think he's coming down for it as well. And it's just great to get them all together. They don't get together that often. And as you'll probably hear on the night, there's a lot of reasons for that. Some good, some bad. Because it was a colourful squad, and there were clashes as well as great times. So they don't often get back together. But I think for these characters in particular, it'll be good. And then, of course, the man of the match, Matt Murray, who we still see around locally, still lives locally, still spends time down at Molineux and clearly loves the club. It's in his veins. He was there from the age of 9 years old. So we had to get Matt along as well. So the four of them should provide lots of different angles, lots of different stories.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we had that penalty save just in the second half. But is this going to be just obviously telling the story of the season in some ways as well? Are you going to have stories from that season, and then on the day, the preparation, how they were feeling, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some nice little clips together to show of some interesting times. It's the story of how they all ended up at Wolves. I mean, Nathan Blake for a long time was the scourge of Wolves fans, for scoring plenty of goals against us for the likes of Bolton, Sheffield United and other clubs, Blackburn Rovers as well, I think. They all found their way there for different reasons. And then, of course, the promotion itself wasn't straightforward. There was that 0102 mishap, shall we say, to put it mildly. Before then, it all sort of clicked into gear eventually in 0203. And there was just so much about that time. It was a very different club from the one there is now. They didn't have their own training ground. They didn't have their own facilities to eat and get changed. They were thrown together. They were sort of doing it all on the hoof. Sir Jack Hayward had ploughed a lot of money into the club, a lot of money into the stadium, but there was so much of the infrastructure that was still really amateurish, and they sort of put up with quite a bit throughout all this. And it was a bit of old school, I think. It was a different culture to what we see now, and the professionalism just wasn't there. But I think that makes it all the more sort of interesting to look back and all the more colourful, particularly when you hear some of the stories about what they got up to in between matches.
I can't wait to hear some of these stories, because, you know, for anyone who is a Wolves fan and anyone who remembers, especially that era, and for a lot of us Wolves fans, that was such a day that you think about it, it can still takes you back. Now, obviously, the old Wembley was under reconstruction. We're down at the Millennium Stadium. There was so much excitement on the way down, the build up to the atmosphere, the hope. It's always the hope that kills you. And then, like, the dream start, you know, after around about 8 minutes, when Kennedy fires that one in, I think the second goes in on about 22 minutes. And by half time, we're 3-0 up. We're in absolute dreamland at half time, looking around, and there's just a sea of gold and black around the Millennium Stadium. And then, obviously, the second half, the penalty happens. He saves it. You know, Neil Warnock loses his head again, as he often does against Wolves as well, because I think it was Neil Warnock's Sheffield United as well. And there's so many stories about Warnock and Wolves over the year as well. I mean, and then obviously, as we talked about, Sir Jack's thumbs at the end and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of stories around it in the dressing room and surrounding that. But Johnny, how did you come up with the idea of putting this on? Where did it come from?
I mean, originally I was doing some writing about Wolves in the last 20 years, along with Paul Berry, the former head of media at Wolves, who's also a big fan and a writer. And we've been getting involved in a few projects lately, writing about the history of the club in the modern day. And I was just meeting up with a lot of these players and getting stories from them. And it became really clear, really immediately. I mean, that they were all huge characters in their own right. They were an opinionated bunch. You know, when you think about the likes of Paul Butler, Paul Ince, Nathan Blake, Kenny, Dean Sturridge, all sharing a dressing room. And then you've got these young players coming through like Matt, Lee Naylor and Jolien Lescott trying to blend in with that. And then players who've been there and done it before, like Mark Kennedy, Dennis Irwin. They were really, and I haven't even mentioned Alex Ray there, who's done it before. And
he's famous in the semi-final for his celebration as well.
Yeah, and there's a great story behind that celebration as well. And also, him and Paul Ince didn't exactly see eye to eye either for a long time, but they're best mates now and have remained great mates in football. And it was just the fact that there are all these characters, and I think as well, it's important, you know, it's the old saying, you know, you remember the past, embrace the future. That's what supporting a club like Wolves is all about. And it was the fact that it was the first modern day promotion to the top division, the first Premier League promotion, and being the 20th anniversary. I just thought, well, nothing's been done with these lads before. There was nothing particularly done on the 10th or the 15th. And it just felt like a great time to celebrate the fact that I consider this a modern team, but 20 years is a long time, really, I suppose. If you're only 30, a lot's changed between the age of 10 and 30 for you, I imagine. So maybe it's not as a modern team as I think it is, but I always think it was the team that paved the way for the structure of the club as it is now.
So, Johnny, the tickets are really selling like hot potatoes. I mean, it's already sold incredibly well, but there are still tickets available, aren't there? And it's for everyone that's watching. And if you're not sure, it is Monday evening, the 22nd of May. It all kicks off at around about 7:30.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the stalls is pretty much gone, as has the middle tier. Is that the dress circle or the grand circle? I never know what these things are called at theatres. And then the top row, I think there's still some availability in the top row. But yeah, it's sold really well. And you know, as it comes up, it's the week. It's the week of the 20-year anniversary. So get along. It's a Monday night, and there'll be a good chance to get involved. You know, we'll look back on the era, we'll look back on the matches, and there were some great matches, and then there'll be a chance to get interactive and fire some questions away to these characters as well, and get under the skin of everything. And I mean, there's so many. I tell you what, there's so many sort of myths about that era as well. Do you remember all the stuff about Jolien Lescott and whether or not he was nobbled in that summer?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We will put all that to bed. all that will be put to bed. We'll get to the bottom of everything. There'll be no stone left unturned.
No stone left unturned. And like you say, there will be an opportunity for people to ask questions for the panel as well.
Yeah, we're going to we'll get some Q&A sheets down in the foyer and in reception beforehand, and you can fire off some questions and we'll have a look at them, and we'll get stuck into them in the second half. The players love all that. They want to hear from the supporters. They want to hear their memories and what they want to talk about. So it'll be a good chance to interact and get your question up on stage.
And just finally, how long does the evening run from? Obviously, we know it kicks off about 7:30. What time does it sort of run to, John?
I'd say, well, it'll kick off at 7:30. We'll do 2 halves of 45 minutes with a 15-minute interval. But in these days of VAR, then we always go well over 45 minutes for a half, don't we? So it could run over. We'll probably do most of it in the first half, and then we'll see how we're getting on in the second. But we'll see what the reaction is. If people are starting to get up and stretching and we hear a few grumbles, then we'll wrap it off. But if people are happy to hang around, we can go on and on and on. That's
fine. So there could be plenty of added time at the end. So that's absolutely fantastic. I think people are going to be absolutely gripped. Now, guys, seriously, I'm going to be going as well. I'm really looking forward to the event. If you're serious about your Wolves, if you went to the playoff final, if you want to find out more about that era, this is a one-off opportunity for you to get involved with this. The tickets, as I say, have sold incredibly well. The link is in the description below. If you're listening to it on the podcast, click on the link. It takes you straight to the Grand Theatre website. But if you just want to go and Google Sir Jack's History Boys on the Grand Theatre, it takes you straight to their website, and you can literally go on there and you can scroll down. It tells you all about it. It tells you all about the cast, and you can also make sure you click that book your tickets, and it takes you straight through to the booking thing, and you can look and see where you want to book your tickets. It's an absolutely one-off fantastic opportunity. Make sure that you do get along, because if you don't, you're going to miss out. Final words from you, Johnny?
Yeah, it'd be great to see so many fans down there, who remember that day so well and who had such a fun time that day. It's just one of those where you can just celebrate it. Really, it's something to look back on with immense fondness and immense pride. And it was a unique day, and I think in terms of encapsulating 24 hours of a Wolves fan's life, it was as good as it gets in modern history. It was just such a great day all around, and I think it should be celebrated. And these players should be allowed to come back and tell their stories, and they should be there for everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely. And you know what? It seems like just yesterday in so many ways, and it's 20 years. Things go by in the blink of an eye, don't they? Absolutely. Fantastic. Right, guys, thank you ever so much to Johnny. As I say, the link's in the description below, or just search Sir Jack's History Boys at the Grand Theatre on Google, and then we will see you there on Monday evening on the 22nd of May, which is literally next Monday. I can't believe it. Where's the year going as well, Johnny? It's crazy, isn't it? Until then, everyone, always Wolves.